Hello and welcome back to the Tea and a Butty podcast. I'm Dominic.
And I'm Erica.
And today's episode we're going to be talking about famous rock sites in London, England. Some are quite famous. Some are, you might not have heard of.
They're not just Beatles sites.
They're not just Beatles sites. Yes, Erica was very concerned that I was just putting up Beatles sites. Actually, there's only a couple on here. I've got 10 in this list that I compiled, all by me little self. And yeah, I've got a little list and a little blurbs and everything.
Because of the whole swing in London.
Swing in London, there's a lot. There's a lot more than just 10, obviously.
What was I going to say? The swing in London, time period, or anyway, whatever you want to call that. The whole swing in London era.
The swing, 60s.
The 60s, yeah. But because of swing in London, there's a lot, and I can't believe that we've never talked about the sites. And
we've never. I don't think we have. No.
And actually, this was sort of inspired by, we saw a random YouTube video of somebody.
Random YouTube video.
I don't even know if we really watched. I can't remember who.
It was someone.
It was. Anyway.
Yeah.
It was a random one, and we were just like, we've never talked about all the
famous
rock and roll kind of
history, because we're music lovers.
Yeah.
So we don't just love the Beatles; we love all the music, all the music in the entire world.
But there's a lot to talk about in London, and I don't know. It was just it just struck us that we had never talked.
We'd never done this before. And this is a completely new topic for you all.
Actually, never.
Yay!
I don't know how many of. I don't know what sites you've compiled.
Well, I've compiled a few.
And I know.
Let me just tell you.
And I know that you and I have visited what I would consider to be some rock and roll historical sites.
Rock and roll history.
But probably just a very small handful.
Very small, I think.
In the broad,
in the broad spectrum of things, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked up a list and then I was thinking about it. I was like, oh yeah, we haven't, a couple of these sites we've visited and a couple we haven't.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Maybe we have little stories to go with certain
Maybe we
sites.
have stories to go.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. You'll have to listen and find out, won't ya? Yeah. Anyway, the first on the list is 23 Haddon Street, West End. What's that from?
I don't know. This is becoming a quiz now.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, that's a good
23 Haddon Street. What happened there? Where were you on the night of? No, I have no idea. I don't know. It doesn't really sound that familiar, I don't think. Haddon Street? No. I've got nothing.
It was the album cover of David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust, which was his launch,
Oh, yeah.
His launch into superstardom, 1972, Ziggy Stardust. They just finished recording of the album, and everyone wanted to go home.
Is that the one with the lightning bolt?
No. He's standing on a street. It's just off Carnaby Street.
Yeah.
In central London, and it's in an anonymous,
Carnaby
shabby
Street
back street.
Carnaby Street, just as a little aside here, Carnaby Street in itself has a lot of rock and roll history.
Well, yeah. Nothing on here is.
Not
except
so far
for this,
as,
I guess.
Not so far as clubs or music stores or venues of any kind, but just the people in the stores and things like that on Carnaby Street. They were very entwined in rock and roll history, Mary Quant, and then I think Vidal Sassoon had his shop.
Yeah, Vidal Sassoon, yeah.
And then just, all the stores on Carnaby Street were very, they sold the mini skirts and the go-go boots and everything you associate with, mod London, we had to turn off our woo-zoo, if you heard that little
woo-zoo! I had to turn off the woo-zoo because I forgot it was on, and it's on the floor. And because it's very hot in here, it's probably blowing on the mic, so you probably heard a or something. Hopefully not. But yeah, I just had to turn off the woozoo.
Yeah.
The fan.
Yeah, we don't want to have to do this over.
We got the ceiling fan over, but yeah, you know.
Yeah, the ceiling fans are bad enough. I can't imagine, you guys, what what you must hear on these podcasts if you're listening.
Birds. Birds and kids screaming,
outside.
dogs barking. You know, we're not exactly in a soundproof studio here. One day we will be, though. Don't you worry about it.
We're very low budget.
Yeah, we're quite low budget, but you love us, don't you?
We still deliver the goods. Well,
yes.
We try anyway.
So yeah, Haddon Street.
Yeah.
Haddon Street it is.
Oh, Haddon.
It was one of the most iconic albums ever made, 1972 Ziggy Stardust. And it's now impossible, obviously, to recreate from the same angle due to a restaurant that's there now.
Okay, yeah.
You know, and it's changed a lot since 1972. But it was just one of those things where everyone wanted to go home and they just got a quick shot of him, and that became the album cover.
Okay.
And they colorized it, and I think they took him down to a phone booth or something for the back.
Yeah.
Down the street. And, you know, they colorized it to make him look alien and, you know, and all that kind of stuff, and that became the album cover then, you know.
Okay. Huh.
So everybody like, oh yeah, you know.
And whereabouts is this?
It's just off Carnaby Street.
Right.
Yeah, it's a back street,
right,
yeah.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, and there's that, you know, it's just kind of like those kind of like a quick shot of Bowie in the studio doorway and one in the phone booth.
Yeah.
And that's it, you know. That's all you need.
I mean,
none of these like, I mean, today everybody thinks about their like, well, I mean, not so much anymore, but back in the 80s, people were thinking about like, oh, I've got to hire this £15,000 an hour photographer to take a photo of a white wall, you know, and have it looking great, you know.
I mean, it really just depends, doesn't it? It depends on the artist, like how simple or how abstract or whatever they want to go. Like, this is just making me think of the street in Hamburg where wasn't it
Jürgen Vollmer?
Yeah. Photographed John Lennon.
Yeah.
Just like hanging in a doorway. And then John later used that photograph as his rock and roll album.
Yeah.
Cover. Yeah. So, you know, it's like, it just depends
everybody
on the
thought that
person
was in Liverpool too, but I don't think it was.
No, it was
in Hamburg.
It was in Hamburg, yeah. Yeah, because I've seen so many people go to that location.
Yeah, I think it was just outside the Indra, or maybe the Kaiser. Something, yeah.
I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean, it's sort of a similar type of thing, isn't it? Just a quick photograph, and it becomes like iconic. You know? Yeah. I
mean, well, any picture of the Beatles is now iconic. Well, I think you know. With David Bowie, you know, it's like the Ziggy Stardust one. No, that was another album. I can't remember what he used that on. Yeah. Actually, that might have been a different. That might have just been a photo of him.
Maybe,
you know?
Yeah, I don't.
The next one is Electric Avenue in Brixton. What's that famous for?
Yeah. I'm not sure actually. Electric Avenue.
Yeah, that's it. Eddie Grant's 1982 hit. We're gonna rock down to Electric Avenue.
God, who would have thought that was an actual place?
It's an actual place. It's the home of the world's first market to be lit by electricity.
Oh, really?
Yeah, hence the catchy name. Nowadays, the market still exists, though there is an indoor one just off the avenue. Electric Avenue is some of the most beautiful Victorian terraces in London. Many passengers of the Windrush settled here in 1948.
And then we'll take you higher, higher.
As it was the closest to the labour exchange, and, you know, to the closest labour exchange to the temporary accommodation to the new immigrants that had been put up there, you know, because the passengers of the Windrush, that's where they all kind of like stayed around there, you know.
Okay. Wow, that's
and then,
interesting.
Of course, after years of appalling police and community relations, Brixton exploded into rioting in 1981.
Oh, God.
And it resulted in, like, police inquiries into racism and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And Eddie Grant's 1982 smash hit, We're Gonna Rock Down to Electric Avenue. And that was a hit over here, apparently.
Yeah, apparently, what? Because I knew it.
Yeah. But Electric Avenue is a real place, and he was talking about a place in Brixton, yeah.
Okay,
a street in Brixton.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, we haven't been to Brixton at all, I don't think.
No, we haven't. We need to. It's in South London, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't... We have crossed the river, like, once, but just...
We just crossed it a little bit, yeah. We just got on the south bank.
Yeah.
That's all we did. We didn't actually
we were
go
just
further
on
south.
The river, really.
You have to go to Peckham and, do the Only Fools and Horses. Da la 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 la. The next one is Battersea Power Station. It's quite a famous landmark. Well, it was a famous landmark in itself. I don't think it's a landmark anymore. I think it's all luxury flats now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a shot of that in, like, Help or something, isn't there?
Well, yeah, because it used to be a power station up until 1983.
I remember when we were. Well, I think we were going to Kent, maybe. We were going to Leeds
Yeah,
Castle,
we passed it.
And you were like, there's Battersea Power Station. I was just like, yeah, it looks like a plant.
Look like a plant. But it's one of the most famous plants in the world.
Because, I mean, I'm from the Texas Panhandle, you guys, and there's a lot of power plants up there. Like, I've seen a power plant before, I wasn't that impressed. I was just like, oh, yeah, great.
I mean, you need to be a millionaire to live there nowadays, but in,
at Battersea Power Station?
Yeah, they've redone the whole... Nine Elms, it's called now.
Oh, okay.
It's not Battersea Power Station, it's Nine Elms now.
But they've turned the actual plant into...
The power station...
Did they tear it down?
They converted it into luxury flats. I think they're still...
Oh my god, okay.
But I mean... Because it kind of remained kind of like derelict for a long time, and they were talking about what to do with it. But back then it was kind of like a poor area.
Oh, yeah.
And it was on the cover of... For Pink Floyd fans out there, it was on the cover of Animals in 1977, their album.
Oh,
there was like a floating pig and stuff on it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
People used to say they lived in Clapham Junction to hide the fact that they lived in Battersea, because it was that poor of an area. And then gentrification happened, and all that kind of stuff.
I don't think anywhere around London is really that poor of an area. I mean, relatively. Relatively
now, no. I mean, the poorer areas have been pushed out.
Yeah. It's kind of like around here. Actually.
Yes. The power station itself was designed by Giles Gilbert Scott, who also designed the classic red telephone box.
Oh, wow.
And during the photographing of the cover, the inflatable pig broke loose and drifted into Heathrow airspace, causing some consternation. The shoot had to be abandoned, hence the cover consisting of a composite pig. The power station ceased to generate in 1983 and was the site of numerous redevelopment ideas, and now it's, luxury residence complex in the 2010s.
One of those classic kind of... We have a little area sort of like that in downtown Austin, actually, that they're kind of like, oh, what do we do with it? What do we do? It's not used anymore.
Yeah, you have like a power
It's right by Town Lake.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, I see it. I know what you're talking about.
But I thought it was still generating, or it's just... They're trying to, convert... They're going to knock it down and stick an office block there.
They haven't used it in years. I think they're actually talking about making it park space, parkland.
They probably should.
Yeah.
They could probably deal with, having a lung,
Yeah, I think so.
25 Brook Street in Mayfair.
Okay, well, Mayfair is going to be some fancy people.
Yes, fancy people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know these addresses whatsoever.
Yeah.
When you're reading me these addresses, they mean nothing to me. 25 Brook Street. No, I don't know. Mayfair. Now, Mayfair, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of rich people are from Mayfair. I don't know.
Composer Handel lived there for a while, from 1723 till 1759, and next door to that was where Jimi Hendrix lived for a while.
Oh yeah,
in the 60s.
Where he died, is it?
Oh no, he died in a hotel somewhere in London. I don't think it's a hotel anymore. That's not on the list, funnily enough. But yeah, it was
where white people like to go visit where someone died anyway.
the Handel and Hendrix Museum now has both of them.
Wow, that's really interesting.
And you can go visit each, and I think they've like redone them up and stuff, and they've just kind of like put, because, it's from like the classics to contemporary, I guess you could call. Yeah, I think that's Handel. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Wait, is it Hallelujah Chorus by Handel? The Messiah. Handel's Messiah. Oh.
I don't know, yeah.
We might be wrong anyway.
But it's where many of his famous works were composed and performances of music take place throughout the year. And Jimi Hendrix lived briefly at the Hendrix Flat in 1968 and 69. Previously available only to view during London's open house weekend, is now fully open to the public.
Oh, wow, that's so cool.
So, yeah, that's a Handel and Hendrix Museum, yeah.
Is that house where... Is that Jimi Hendrix's house where, like, Ringo lived for a little while?
Funny you should mention...
How many houses in London did Jimi Hendrix have?
Well, he didn't have them. He just lived in them.
Oh.
Because, he wasn't really a resident of the UK. He just came to the UK and got famous. Like everyone was doing in the mid-60s,
Yeah.
Sonny and Cher did it.
Yeah.
It was like America wasn't liking them, Like Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, nobody likes us here. We have to go to the UK now.
No, Jimmy. That's what the Rolling Stones told them. It's like, oh, you're not going to have any success here. You need to go to England to get famous. Because you'll be like mysterious and you're American and whatever, and you can sing and they'll lap you up there. Yeah.
It's
like that's where you need to go, and that's where a lot of like Jimi Hendrix.
I think early on, a lot of blues singers had popularity in Britain before they had like big careers over here, didn't they? They went like Muddy Waters,
John Lee Hooker, Buddy Guy.
I think it still happens here. I don't know what that's all about. It is just the like. You're exotic, like we don't know you. And... It's
a combination of that, and it's a combination of people who are like really into this kind of stuff that there's enough of a interest to generate media exposure, Mm-hmm. Whereas in America it was very like, you're only really known locally, not nationally, so...
Yeah. I guess...
It's like with Muddy Waters and stuff like that, he was famous in like the 50s, he was like playing blues records, he got a thing, and that was imported to England.
Yeah.
But, they were having very limited success over here.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like mania success that the Beatles enjoyed in the States and, and all that. So when they came over in the 60s, because people like Eric Clapton and Keith Richards and stuff were talking about like, oh yeah, they were my favorite artists. In interviews with, like in Britain. It was like, oh, okay, those guys are the, like, inspirations. So they'd come over for a tour and they'd be like, whoa, everybody, and they'd just be like, what?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I always say about Elvis, like, his career would have taken an upturn had he been allowed to tour Britain.
Yeah.
I mean, he would have raked it in. Mm-hmm. He would have, like, Britain, the Europe, the world, whatever, it would have been...
The music market, let's say, has always been quite controlled in this country, I guess,
Yeah.
It's like we have always sort of been told who is popular. You know what I mean? Rather than us just liking someone.
Yeah.
And then becoming popular because of that.
Yes.
You have all the marketers and the promoters and everything. And you have that to a degree everywhere.
Yeah.
But it just seems a lot more so over here. And it's always kind of been that way. I think that maybe with the advent, we always talk on this podcast of how the internet has changed things so much.
I mean, you get famous on the internet, you'll get a following pretty much.
Think about how many modern singers,
Justin Bieber,
have started because they gained a following on YouTube, and that was all of their own accord. That was all of their own doing, really. Their audience found them rather than them being
like marketed and shoved down people's throats.
Mm-hmm.
Shoved in people's faces. I mean, that's true. the next, you were talking about how many houses did Jimi Hendrix live in. The next one is Flat 1, 34 Montague Square,
there we go.
Marylebone.
That's an address I know.
That's the address that you know.
Yeah.
I think that it's possibly the flat that saw the most rock and roll action in London.
Yeah. No pun intended.
No pun intended. I think it saw pretty much everyone.
Yeah.
Because it was leased by Ringo Starr in '65 for, somewhere for him and his family to live, because I think he just had his first child, and he'd got married to Maureen, and they were like, we need to live in London because I'm recording here, and the Beatles and all that. And then of course it was like their people advised them, buy houses in the stockbroker belt, away you can get away from the fans, it's good property investment, whatever. So that's what they did. But he still kept this lease at this flat in London, for like whenever he was back, he could go crash there or whatever. It was a ground floor and lower ground floor, like the cellar basement in the original house, dwelling. And he briefly lived in the flat, and then after him, Paul used it, Paul McCartney.
Oh, did he?
And
when he moved out from living with Jane?
He was still living with Jane, but it was quite close to Abbey Road.
Oh, okay.
So he wanted to use it as like a little demo studio. So he had like tape stuff and all that, and he recorded like demos of like I'm Looking Through You, and I think he worked on some songs there briefly, and I think it was just kind of like a crash pad for his girlfriends at the time, and so he gave it up then when he bought Cavendish Avenue. And then like next year Jimi Hendrix moved in, because I think he needed a place to live.
So did he rent it from Ringo then?
He rented it from Ringo, yeah. He paid rent to Ringo.
That is just so hilarious.
Every week Ringo would be round.
But
Ringo was leasing it from a guy who owned it.
Okay.
I don't know who this guy was.
So he
was subleasing it, yes. But he was renting it from Ringo.
Yeah.
And then Jimi Hendrix moved in after Paul left.
I didn't know that Paul lived there.
It was very briefly,
Yeah.
And then he moved in with his girlfriend, and I think he wrote The Wind Cries Mary there and everything. And then, he got under the influence of LSD, he whitewashed the walls one night.
Oh, yeah.
And so Ringo had to evict him, because you can't alter the flat.
That's it, Jimmy, you're out.
You're out of here, And then he leased it to like people who needed a place to stay in London,
Yeah.
Various people.
Didn't John and Yoko also stay there?
That's when it all came crashing down, is when he allowed John and Yoko to live there.
Yeah.
After they got together. And so they lived there, and the Two Virgins cover, the infamous Two Virgins cover, was shot in the front room of it,
Oh, okay.
And then, of course, that infamous
actually.
drugs bust happened.
Yeah.
And they raided the place and, arrested John and Yoko and all this kind of stuff. And so the landlord had finally had enough and said to Ringo, I'm taking you to court because...
You're letting all these other people
You're letting all these other people live there, and it's notorious, and, it's gaining infamy. And so... he tried to let Ringo still have the lease, but only he or a family member lived there. But Ringo was like, nah, and he just sold the lease back in 1969.
He's like, I don't need it, really.
I don't need it now. And there's a blue plaque there now. In 2010, in 2002, a music label owner, Reynold de Silva, bought it for £550,000.
For some reason, I don't
beating a rival bid from Noel Gallagher.
Of course.
And then in 2010, Yoko unveiled a blue plaque at the place saying John Lennon lived here.
Okay.
And one of the Quarrymen, Rod Davis, was in attendance. He says he probably would have laughed. They should have put a bit about the drugs bust on the bottom, because it's just like that. You got a good chuckle out of that. There's a blue plaque there for that,
John Lennon was busted for drugs here.
Busted for drugs here in 1968.
We didn't go there, did we?
No, we didn't. Yeah. And it's like one of the most famous places, you know.
Yeah, we need to go there.
Yeah, so next time we're in London, we'll go in there. The next one is the 100 Club at 100 Oxford Street.
Oh, I don't know this one either.
You don't know this one? This is probably one of the most famous. It's like a renowned West End basement club.
I wondered, I was like, you're not listing any of the clubs? Like, there's so many clubs.
Oh, yeah, no, I didn't
we'll have to
really
do
think
a part 2, maybe.
Maybe do a part 2, yeah. But this one, the 100 Club, it started out, and it's still going. It started out...
Why'd you give me that look?
Because, most of these places...
It's still going.
It's still going,
you may think it's not, but
it's still going. It started out in October 1942 as the Feldman Swing Club.
Oh yeah.
So it was a swinging place back then, you know, and it was like jazz mecca for jazz fans who wanted to go there and see everyone.
Yeah.
But 1964, that's when rock and roll kind of came to the town.
Yeah.
And so everyone has literally been there. Jimi Hendrix, the
There's
Rolling Stones.
Of the jazz clubs in Britain switched over to rock and roll.
I mean, they got to make money, haven't they? You know, it's just like, jazz. It's like, what's popular now? It's not jazz, it's rock and roll, you know? And then punk rock came along, and it became like a punk rock club.
Oh, really? That's really cool.
And, like the Sex Pistols, the Clash, the Jam, everyone played there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it kept going, and I think there was like...
This is on Oxford Street?
Yeah.
So we must have passed it.
Yeah, past it. It's a small little place. It's between like Boots and...
It's next door to oh no.
It's between like Boots and another shop. You miss
Boots
it.
and Primark.
Probably something like that.
God.
And in the 1970s, it even had a Chinese takeaway in it.
Oh, what do you mean?
Wedged in between the male and female toilets. There was a little Chinese takeaway.
What?
Where you go get a Chinese takeaway and go watch your
inside
rock and roll.
The club.
Yeah. Well, yeah, inside the club, yeah.
That is so
it's not there anymore, I guess, but But yeah, like Oasis have played there. I think that they were going to close it at one point, but then they kind of like saved it.
Yeah.
Because it's like preserve it for like history, because a lot of bands have played there. But yeah.
That's cool.
The 100 Club.
Well, that's definitely...
The 100 Club, I should call it.
That's definitely a place I need to go. That is so cool.
Yeah. The next one is the Two Eyes Coffee Bar in Old Compton Street in Soho.
That one sounds familiar. Oh, is that in the background of the picture of the Beatles walking through Soho?
No, it isn't.
Why do I know it? Okay, tell me about it.
It was basically a skiffle venue. It started up because of like in post-war Britain.
Yeah.
It was kind of a conservative tea drinking place.
In Soho.
It's in Soho, yeah.
I mean, it was a conservative place in Soho.
No. Britain was.
Oh.
So they decided to things were happening in America. Drinking coffee was an American habit, Yeah. So they were like, we're going to open up a coffee bar, because it's cool, it's hip, it's trendy, it's American.
Yeah.
And we'll have like skiffle bands and jazz bands and stuff like that. Beatniks, kind of like that kind of stuff. And then that was in like the mid-50s. And so, it was like rock and roll music culture started there in London. They call it, it's not there anymore, but they've got a plaque saying the birthplace of British rock and roll, because people like Tommy Steele and Cliff Richard were discovered there.
Okay.
And Adam Faith too, actually. And it was inspiration for the Casbah Coffee Club up in Liverpool.
Oh, really?
Mona Best heard about this place in London that all the kids went to, and she thought, we should have that in Liverpool.
I must have read about it in one of the biographies that I have.
Oh, yeah, loads of people played there, but it only...
The Two Eyes.
The Two Eyes Coffee Club. And I think it briefly featured in, like, the Beatles' early years when they came down to, like... Oh, no, it was Alan Williams who came to the Two Eyes to recruit British musicians to go to Germany.
Okay.
And, do out there, you know, make a
Yeah.
load of money. But yeah, people like Tommy Steele, Adam Faith, and Cliff Richard, probably names you've never really heard of. Maybe Cliff Richard.
Well, yeah.
They became like, they got their start at the Two Eyes, you know.
Yeah.
And it was going for, and many big names played there except for the Rolling Stones and the Beatles.
Oh, really?
In the 60s,
sounds
yeah.
like it would have been somewhere that the Rolling Stones would have played. That kind of stuff.
And it closed its doors in 1970. Because, you know, by that time everyone had, you know, it wasn't really making much money.
Yeah.
It's now a fish and chips place known as Poppy's, and there's a plaque there. But it's like a touristy kind of place.
Oh,
you know, so.
Yeah.
But yeah. The next one is 1 Logan Place, Kensington. Who lived at 1 Logan Place, Kensington?
Yeah, no. I don't know.
The house was known as Garden Lodge, or still is known as Garden Lodge. Does that give you a clue?
Nope.
It was built in 1908 for painter Cecil Ray, and it's 2 stories high with 8 bedrooms and a pedimented studio wing with a large bay window. And that's a notable feature.
2 stories high with 8 bedrooms?
Yeah. An 8-foot-high wall surrounds the garden with dark glass doors set into it that provides an entrance. Freddie Mercury bought the house for £500,000 cash in early 1980. And he lived there until he died. That was his place, you know.
Yeah.
And it's quite it's quite hard to find.
Yeah.
It's in Kensington, but it's kind of like set back.
Oh.
And it's like, how can you hide a house like that, you know, really? But it's like, it's got walls around it.
I mean, yeah, it must be quite wide, which is not really super normal in London.
I mean, I saw like a shot of it from like
from
the thing, and it looks huge, but of course, you know, it's like set back, and then there's like I guess terraced houses at the back of it, you know.
Okay.
So it's kind of like set off from it's like a little
sort of
back
like
street,
like a muse
type thing, yeah. But it's like takes up the whole block. It's like an acre of like land or something.
Yeah, well, it would have to be because most like.
Because it's got like a walled garden and everything. Because when he moved in, he redecorated the place.
Yeah.
And, you know, and he had the garden done and everything like that, you know, and he just, you know, that's where he lived.
Because most houses that would have 8 bedrooms in London, I would think they'd be like 4 or 5 stories tall. You know, because most of them are like terraced houses in London, so they have to go up rather than out, you know, so.
8 bedrooms.
Yeah.
So... Mary Austin lives there because, I mean, he basically left everything to her in his will.
Yeah.
And she still lives there today. And, of course, fans put on the wall, you know, the wall was, like, covered in graffiti. And they continue to, like, seek it out. But in 2019, they put, she must have had it all removed, all the graffiti on the wall and stuff, and put a new back door in, and there's like a warning now, graffiti is a crime, and and points out that security cameras are in operation. So it's like she's getting sick of it now.
That's kind of sad. I mean,
it's sad that, you know, like, you know, because it's like they're not like they're coming up to your front door and doing it, you know.
Yeah, or writing ugly things.
Yeah,
you know, I'm sure it's all just like we miss you, we love you, you know, whatever. Like Abbey Road in Liverpool. I appreciate the fact
Abbey Road in Liverpool.
Abbey Road.
Abbey Road in Liverpool.
I don't know. That was
Abbey Road.
Abbey Road.
Yeah.
Like Abbey Road, you know, they allow it.
They allow it.
And
then the council just paint over it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like.
Yeah, but that was Freddie Mercury's house, and I mean, people know who are Queen fans. We'll know where he lived.
People know who Freddie Mercury is.
Yeah, people know where he lives.
He lives in Liverpool at Abbey Road.
Next one is 3 Savile Row, Westminster.
I know this one.
In July 1968, the Beatles bought it for their Apple Multimedia Corporation. And the studio was built in the basement. Although it was poorly designed, the Beatles recorded Let It Be there before a new studio was constructed in 1971 at an estimated cost of $1.5 million. Various artists, including Badfinger, Mary Hopkin, and Mark Bolan, recorded in the basement studio until it closed in 75. That's when they moved out.
Oh, yeah.
And Apple kind of wound up.
Yeah.
Well, as
ish.
Ish, yeah. And of course, their final live performance was on the roof in 1969.
Yeah, we've been there.
And, it's... there seems to be some kind of... Because, it remained, after 75, I don't think anyone really moved in there. I think it remained kind of derelict.
Oh, yeah?
For a long time. Until, various things just moved in, for 5 minutes and then moved out again,
Yeah.
And then Abercrombie and Fitch moved in there. Well, they put their kids' store there in 2013. And there seems to be kind of some confusion because that closed in 2020. And there's an Abercrombie and Fitch store at number 42.
Okay.
But then people go, oh no, number 42's closed and they're back at number 3 now.
Okay.
And so the whole place is there now. And so it's like...
Only someone in London can tell us.
Only someone who's lives close can tell us what's going on with that place.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Me and Dominic have big dreams if we ever get enough money to buy that place.
We're gonna purchase the lease in it and make it a...
Maybe we'll tell our patrons we can't afford to let our plans leak to the general population just in case we ever have millions and millions of pounds.
Well, we almost won the lottery the other night. Almost. We didn't get any numbers, but we had a ticket, and we almost won the 1.13 billion, wasn't it?
1.3, I think.
After taxes, that would have been a paltry 700 and something million, but what can you do? We're on the bread line here. Yeah. The last one is Abbey Road.
Oh, yeah. In Liverpool.
In Liverpool.
Okay, that joke's dead.
That joke's not dead. We don't do dead jokes here. We just keep them alive by digging them up again. Abbey Road Studios in St. John's Wood. It's possibly the most famous studios in the world.
Yeah.
It started life as a 9-bedroom Georgian townhouse in 1831.
Yeah.
And then it was converted to flats. And then in 1929, the Gramophone Company, which eventually became EMI, bought it and converted it to a studio.
I'd really like to tour it because I don't understand. We've seen video and stuff of the inside.
It goes back. And apparently does
it go underground also?
I think it's got a basement. Yeah,
because the rooms inside, some of them look absolutely huge.
No,
and from the outside, it looks tiny.
It goes back and it goes down, and I think there's a basement as well.
Yeah, I really cannot understand how, it's a little bit of the Doctor Who thing, it's
bigger on the inside. The next door, there's the Abbey House. Apparently they own that too, and that was to house musicians and stuff.
Is that next door? I thought it was across the street.
No, it's next door.
Okay.
Because I remember when I was there once on my own, a New Zealand couple were taking photos of Abbey House and going, so this is the famous studio. So I was actually it's that one. That's the studio. Because they were just taking photos of this Abbey House.
Yeah.
Thinking, oh yeah, this is it, And I was and they said, oh, and then the guy says to me, so this is the famous studio, is it? And I go, actually no, that's it, the white building there,
Yeah.
And he was like, oh God, we've been taking photos
because
of
it says Abbey Road Studios, but it's quite small, isn't
it?
Right above the door. It's
yeah.
It's really teeny, but yeah, no, I definitely would like to, because I think you can tour. They do give tours.
They do, yes. I think it opens, and I don't know if you have to pay or what, but I think it opens every so often they allow members of the public. They give out tickets or whatever, and someone can come to a studio too.
I think you can get tickets to performances and stuff. That are there sometimes, but because they do live radio performances.
They do, and some artists do live at Abbey Road.
Yeah,
and
it's a little bit like Austin City Limits, isn't it?
It's a little
the
bit.
Show,
yeah.
I mean.
Well, yes.
It's a live kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've never seen. You see those old pictures of the Beatles in the studio. And the ceilings look really tall and they look really teeny there.
Yeah. Well, Studio One is huge.
And I'm just like, how does this fit inside of this place?
Studio One is like the orchestra room. Studio One was like, it's like massive. It's like built to house like a 35-piece orchestra.
Yeah, well, they did All You Need Is Love there, didn't they?
Yeah, that was where they did it.
And they had all the orchestra and all the people, and like there were just so many people.
Yeah. And of course, like that was where like they score all like since the 80s they've been scoring films there. Yeah. Harry Potter, Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
Indiana Jones. Most of the MCU films, you know, The Lord of the Rings, you know, pretty much everything has been scored there. I mean, it only became like a rock and roll kind of like studio in 1958 when Cliff and the Shadows performed there, you know, recorded there. Yeah. And that's when it started becoming like, groups can come in and record, you know, because before that it was just orchestra music.
It was EMI, was it?
It was EMI, yeah. Parlophone.
Because it used to say EMI above the door, didn't it?
EMI, well, they owned it. I think they still do own it, but I think Universal have taken them over now.
Because of the Abbey Road album, they became... Is
Abbey
that, is that when they became Abbey Road?
No, I think that was much later on.
Really?
They managed to make that a brand name, you know.
Because they show it's like with the crosswalk.
The crosswalk and everything. Yeah, I mean, the Beatles were the most associated act with that studios. Yeah. And then they cemented it with their final album, you know.
Yeah.
So.
But John Williams did all the like. Yeah. Some of the most famous movie scores.
Yeah, Star Wars, Harry Potter. Yeah. John Barry and John Williams, and you know everyone's recorded there. Yeah. You know, I mean, everybody wanted to record there after the Beatles too. You know.
Well, yeah.
Everyone wanted to go into Studio 2 and do their thing. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that probably is the ultimate rock and roll site in London, isn't it? But I think
a lot of great albums are recorded there.
I think you definitely left some stuff.
I mean, that was 10 things, and I think we're pretty much done now.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
We're way past the time limit, way past our bedtime here.
We're just rambling on here. Let us know if you want us to do a part 2 to this, because I think that we could probably come up with
We'll come up with some stuff.
We might be able to come up with this many more, I think. I mean, maybe not 10 more, but...
I can find some stuff to come up with.
They might be sort of a little more loosely related to rock and roll. Yeah. But no, I think we can come up with... I mean, London is a big city.
Yeah, there's a lot of history there.
Yeah.
A lot of history there.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna talk about one that I thought
it's a bonus one.
No, we won't.
No.
We'll put it on the next one.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
you have to
listen. They'll have to
You'll have to listen. And I'll have to listen too, because I want to know what it is.
Oh my gosh. Thank you guys so much as always for tuning in. We really appreciate your support. Be sure to check us out on social media. We are at TButty, TEABUTTY on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And we will talk to you next time.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.